I want you to know just one thing from watching this video. And that one thing is that you, yes, you, will never be happy. It's not like you'll never be wealthy, because about 700,000 people in the US alone become millionaires every year. So it's not like you'll never ever be able to get that nice house or a nice car. And no, it's not because you're not in love at the moment or you don't have any children of your own, because let's be honest, falling in love and having children isn't generally that difficult. Because keep in mind, we are biochemically pre-programmed to do one, if not already both of those things. And no, it's not because you're not internet famous, because even that is not very particularly difficult to do either. Just ask Kim Kardashian. And it's certainly not that you'll never be able to get that dream job in that field that you're so passionate for. I mean, well, I hope you're able to do that. You did spend about $30,000 for that piece of paper, that just to give you the opportunity to be able to work in that field. But once you do finally get that job, so what? It took about 2 to 3 years after graduation, but as soon as you finally do get that job, you're going to find that you're going to be busting your ass day in and day out for that job. And not only that, you will also find yourself doing things, doing jobs, doing tasks that were not in your job description. And no, it's not because you're broadening your horizons. And no, it's not because you're so good at your job, your boss is like, here's more work, I love you, and also here's some bonus pay. No, none of that. In fact, it's actually because your boss has a boss, and that boss is busting the balls of your boss because he wants your boss to be more productive and save the company more money by cutting corners. So now you find yourself doing a job that easily could be done by an extra hire. And despite the fact that you are a hard worker, because if you weren't, you wouldn't be where you are today, your workload never seems to lighten up. No, in fact, it seems to get a little bit bigger and bigger and bigger. Why? Because your job description already is supposed to take up the whole work day, but now you find yourself doing tasks and other people's jobs that wasn't in your job description. So now you're doing extra tasks throughout the day. So today's work ends up being, well, today's work, but also yesterday's work that you weren't able to complete. So every day, the pile of work you need to do just gets a little bit bigger every single day. So you find yourself working in the mornings, finishing tasks that you were supposed to complete yesterday, only to find yourself later in the evening not being able to finish the work that was allotted for today. But that's okay. That's tomorrow's problem, right? But then you'll find that you'll be forced to take some work home because we have deadlines, Karen. They need to be met, Karen. Did you finish your work, Karen? God fucking damn it, Karen. And if you do find yourself neck deep in work, Nick, don't worry about it. You could take some time off. You can relax. Take your 2 weeks off, right? Because you're given 2 weeks. 2 weeks are allotted to you for vacation time. So take that time off, relax, recoup, rejuvenate, get your mindset back into that working mode. You worked very hard. You deserve a break, Nick. What's that, Nick? You're not going to take your break? Are you crazy? Why not, Nick? Why aren't you taking your break? Oh, is it because Phil is not taking his break? He's not going to go on vacation. No, Phil's not going to go on vacation. He works just as hard as you do. So both of you guys are candidates for the promotion. You know, the promotion that has about $15,000 pay raise. Both of you are up for that promotion. But Phil's not going to take vacation time off. And you wanted to. But if you do, that very much might disqualify you for that promotion. Why? Because it shows that Phil is more devoted to the company than you are. So wouldn't he be more deserving of this promotion? So no, don't take your time. Don't take your vacation time, Nick. In fact, even if you get sick, Nick, don't even take sick days off. Go to work your ass off, get that promotion. Because fuck Phil, and Phil will not get that promotion over your dead body. Hell, if Phil gets that promotion, there's going to be a fucking fire in that workplace. But hey, at least you get to go home to that woman of your dreams, right, Nick? Well, she used to be the woman of your dreams. I mean, she hasn't changed much. She's still the same person. But things are different. She looks a little bit different. She's not too keen on fitness like she used to. She also acts different, especially around Ben. But let's not think about that. So keep slaving yourself, Nick and Karen, because once upon a time it was, once I work very hard and get my degree, I'll get that dream job and I'll make a difference in the world and I will be happy. But then you quickly realize 2 months into this dream job of yours that you won't really actually be able to make an impact on the world. In fact, hell, you can't even impact your own workspace. You take note that you're just another cog in the machine. A cog that is also easily replaceable. Hell, you didn't think you were the only naive, bright-eyed young adult to have burning passion in their eyes to walk through those doors, did you? Don't kid yourself. So then it becomes, maybe if I work hard and kiss ass to work my way up that corporate ladder, I'll make more money, and with that money I'll be able to get nicer clothes, a faster car, a better pad, and I'll be living the life. Then I'll be happy. So the years go by and you're now in your late 20s, early 30s, and congratulations, you got those promotions, you got that money, you got all the things that you wanted. You got that nice pad and that car that you've been eyeing, and it felt great. You were actually happy, very happy in fact, but it was everlasting because now you feel empty. So maybe you say, maybe if I find my companion, my soulmate, the one that was made for me, I'll be able to be happy. And you found her, Nick, just in time because you just had a divorce because it turns out your wife was sleeping with Ben. And the woman of your dreams that you found was Karen. You bumped into her at the supermarket. You had a massive crush on her in high school. She actually thought you were funny and low-key cute in high school. And she still has that sparkle in her eyes as if it never left. You know, that sparkle she has when she smiles. So let's fast forward and now you guys are 2 to 3 years into your guys' marriage. And things are kind of dying. They were amazing, weren't they? But now, it's so routine. You were so happy with Karen, Nick, and so is she. There was a time where she was always on your mind. I mean, you didn't even try to think about her. She was just always there. And you loved it. You couldn't get enough of her. There was so much passion. And she couldn't get enough of you. But things are now different. Again, like I said before, things are now routine. You aren't happy anymore, Nick. But don't worry. In case you were wondering, she isn't happy either. I mean, it doesn't really matter, neither of you are going to admit it. But hey, you know what would help? Children. Bring some precious life into the world and raise it together. Doesn't that sound amazing? So then now it becomes, I'll be happy once I have a family. And you say this together. But guess what, Nick? It worked. You now have 2.5 intelligent, beautiful, healthy children. And it did bring both you and Karen closer. So yes, it worked. The kids brought you guys closer and they mean the world to both of you. But god damn, these kids are going to need a lot of stuff. I mean, they have to be kept fed, right? Because 1 in 5 kids in the US alone go hungry. And they need access to clean water. Today, 844 million people worldwide do not have access to clean water. That's 1 in 9 people that lack access to clean water. I mean, if you're watching this, go to your bathroom right now and flush the toilet. What will you see? Clean water. Clean water that is wasted to carry your waste into the ocean. But of course, this is me assuming you have a toilet in the first place. Because as you guessed it, 2.3 billion people, that's 1 in 3, lack access to a toilet. And let's also not forget about the rent you guys are going to have to keep. You guys are going to have to pay. You guys cannot be in your guys' apartment anymore that was good enough for the both of you, Nick and Karen. Now you need a bigger pad. You need a house. You have 2.5 kids. A shabby little apartment is not going to be enough room anymore. So that means rent is going to be much more expensive. And you need to keep paying that rent because they need that roof over their heads. Because 2.5 million children are now homeless in the U.S. alone. And they're not going to be one of them. Not under your watch, right, Nick? Karen? That's 1 in 30 children. I don't know. That makes me think because I remember growing up in public school, there was about 30 kids of us in each class. That means chances are one of the kids in my class was homeless. But hey, you two got money, so it's okay. You got to handle all the necessities, but also keep in mind you also have to pay the electricity bill, you have to pay for running water, for trash removal. Oh, and let's not forget about the oh so precious Wi-Fi because they need to be able to do their schoolwork at home, and they need Wi-Fi for that. At least you hope that's what they're using the Wi-Fi for. And holy shit, oh my god, how the fuck did I forget? We need to move to a good, no, scratch that. We need to move to a great location, a great neighborhood, a place where we don't have to worry about child abductors, break-ins, drugs, gang violence, predators, etc., etc., etc. Wow, all this is going to cost a pretty fucking penny just so they can grow up without trauma. But even then, they still might grow up without trauma, but at least you'll be able to say, hey, I did my best. I tried my best to make sure that they would have that childhood, that golden childhood. But the bills don't stop racking there, because these kids, they have hobbies, and those hobbies cost money, because heaven forbid they become lonely, depressed teenagers that lock themselves in their room and just smoke a fatty all day. No, they're going to be put in sports, band, religious youth groups, anything to keep them away from trouble. And now they're in high school. They want cars. They want the newest phone, the newest and best gadgets. And damn, this is expensive. When is this all going to end? I'm not fucking happy, Karen, Nick says. And she then replies, neither am I. Fuck, this sucks. I feel so empty. But we can't let go. We can't let go of our 2.5 kids, Karen. And I'm not happy, and I don't want them to not be happy. So what do? I want them to be happy. So then you think, maybe if they make more money, because you assume that the reason why you're unhappy is because you have financial stress. So the first thing you think of is, if these kids have more money, they won't have the stress, therefore they'll be happy, right? So you give up an arm and a leg to put them in the best school possible for them, so they can get a job that will pay them more than what you're making, so that they can not only support a family of their own, but they won't have to worry about bills, right? And maybe, just maybe, then they will be lucky enough to find the path to happiness. But then again, this is all assuming that they don't fucking waste your money and throw it down the garbage disposal by majoring in something completely useless, such as philosophy. But don't worry, they won't do that. Or so you hope. So then they grow up, they become superstars in their fields, in the sense that they're making more than their parents. I mean, they're not particularly popular in the sense that their name is known worldwide for their particular field, but they're doing all right. They're doing pretty well. They're very successful, but yet they're still unhappy. Well, they listened. They followed to what everyone was saying. They followed the social script to the T. Is it that the social script no longer works? No way. It's because they didn't follow the social script hard enough. So Nick's and Karen's 2.5 kids are going to have 2.5 kids of their own. That's 6.25 of them, in case you're wondering about the math. And what they're going to put these kids through is all for their own good. They're going to put them through very demanding college prep schools. They're going to choose their hobbies, hobbies that are going to enhance their chances of getting into an even better school. Things like student council, mock trial, football. They will choose the friends they can and can't have. And hell, if it was possible for these parents to even censor the very thoughts these kids are having, they probably would do it. So now they pressure their children to perform academically. Not only to perform, but to outperform everybody. Because let's keep in mind that other parents are doing the exact same things to their kids. And if they want their kids to go to Harvard or Stanford, they need to outperform those kids. So due to this parental expectation, that they're forced to believe that they must excel in school, these kids are now having ideas pop in their heads, such as, if I so much as get a B in chemistry, might as well kiss my life goodbye. Because if I don't get into the best school, I will not have the opportunity to grant access to better and higher paying jobs. And if I don't have that good job, I won't make good money. And if I don't make good money, then surely a life of addiction and crime. I'm going to have to steal a few cars just to scrape by. Well, you might think, hold up there, that's a slippery slope right there, buddy. You need to calm down. But is it? According to the Pew Research Center, they made a study in 2014, and the study is called The Rising Cost of Not Going to College. So in 2013, because it was conducted in 2014, or it was written in 2014, so that means that they use at They had to use 2013 numbers. We're in 2019 now, so the gap that I'm about to explain about is going to be much more skewed. But they found that on average, no matter what degree you have, you're going to be making about $50,000 with a bachelor's degree. And high school diploma graduates, like they only have a high school diploma, they're making a little bit less than $30,000. That's a $15,000 difference. And keep in mind, this is an average. Of course, you're going to have the people who only went to high school and are now millionaires. And at the same time, you're going to have those bachelor degree holders who are making $20,000. But the fact that this is the average, this tells me this is what mostly is going to occur. So then you might think, oh, so what about the money? It's only $15,000. It's not that big of a deal. You know, if you want to be completely oblivious by the fact that housing is rising and so are basic necessities, you also need to keep in mind that people with just a high school diploma are finding themselves at 12% unemployment rate, at a 12% unemployment rate, while those with bachelor's degree, doesn't matter if you have a degree in engineering or gender studies, they're only looking just shy of 4%. That means if you only have a high school diploma, you're going to find yourself more than three times more likely to not be able to even get a job in the first place. So the fact that these kids believe that if they don't get into the best college, they will not be able to make enough money to scrape by, that they have to then perform illegal activity to be able to just get enough to survive, it makes sense why they feel this way. It might be a little exaggerated, but let's be honest, kids exaggerate. But these parental expectations don't just grasp into their scholarly life. No, it also takes hold of their extracurriculars, because keep in mind, they're choosing what hobbies they can have because they want them to be in activities that they could put on that piece of paper. You know, that paper that summarizes your worth as a human being, you know, a resume. If you want your kid to increase their chances of getting into those better schools, you're going to want them to choose activities that are going to help them get there. Student council, mock trial, football, as I've stated before, National Honor Society even. So now they find themselves doing it solely for the purpose of putting it on the resume, not because they actually love it. Like, I mean, don't kid yourself. Do you honestly think student council means anything? Like, those kids are not going to be able to change anything in their high school. They have no power. It's simply just so that they could put it on that piece of paper to tell that they have leadership experience. That's the only reason why they're doing it. And then you might think, yo, you're being a little harsh. What if they actually did love it? What if they actually did love what they were doing? I would quickly remark by saying, did they actually though? Because I'm going to tell you two studies. There's a study of the boring menial tasks. They basically put these participants doing really boring tasks. And then when they were done, they asked them, hey, I need you to tell the person that is coming to do the exact same task as you did. I need you to lie to them and tell them that this is the most fun experiment ever. And if you do it, we will pay you money. Some people got paid $20, which was a lot of money at the time when this experiment was conducted, and we'll give you $1. And what they found was this. Those who lied and got the money, they then asked them questions like, did you actually enjoy this experiment? And those who got $20 said, no, this fucking experiment blew. Like, it was so boring. I hated it. However, those who were only paid $1 single said that they actually very much enjoyed the experiment and that they would be willing to do it again. And you might think, whoa, that's weird. Why? Well, what the scientists believe is that because $1 isn't worth that much at all, I'm going to lie to myself. I'm going to change how I actually perceive something because, hell, $1 is not worth my character. I'm not going to lie to someone just for a measly dollar. Am I really worth only $1? Is my word only worth $1? That's bogus as hell. No. Instead, I'm going to tell myself, no, actually, I did actually enjoy the experiment. It was actually a lot of fun because I wouldn't lie to someone just for $1. And they really believed that they actually did enjoy it. Here's another study. Same thing, basically. It's about the ROTC. Basically, people join the ROTC to avoid getting drafted into war. And those who went to ROTC and didn't get drafted, they said that they absolutely hated ROTC. It was a waste of their time, essentially. But those who did end up getting called on the draft and were able to avoid war because they were in ROTC, they reported that they actually very much enjoyed their time at ROTC. So what happened here? It's the exact same thing. Those who joined for the mere purpose of avoiding deployment and later found out that they were never going to be deployed in the first place, thought that they just wasted their time there. They could have just continued living life normally, never having to experience that, and would have been just fine. But those who joined for the purpose of avoiding deployment and were actually called on the draft and were able to use ROTC to get out found that, hey, I came here for this reason, and it turns out that it was a good decision, because if I didn't come, I was going to get drafted. So hey, I actually did enjoy ROTC. It was worth my time. So did they actually really, so going back to the topic at hand, did those kids really actually love the extracurricular activities that you forced them to do? Because I would say that the only way that they could say that they loved it and truly mean it is if they did it without the obligation to do it in the first place, as if their whole future depended on it. But continuing on this idea of parental expectations and how it morphs children and shapes their behaviors, we need to keep in mind that it has no boundaries. It will surely find its way to slither inside the children's head and to ultimately shape their personality. For example, we're always told, or at least I was growing up in public school, that we should all be a leader and not a follower. They would have basically propaganda all over the wall, like go against, they would have a bunch of fish swimming one way and then one little fish that's colorful swimming the other way, and it basically was telling you to go against the current, be the change you want to see in the world, be a leader, not a follower. And this is absolute BS, because think about it. If we're all being leaders or having leadership attributes because someone told us to have them, that's not a leader. I'm pretty sure that eerily sounds very similar to a follower, because a follower does things because someone told them to do it. And if I'm a leader because you told me to do it, does that really make me a leader? I'm pretty sure that makes me a follower. And even if we pretend everyone can be leaders, who the fuck are they going to lead? They're not going to be able to lead anybody. Not everybody can be a leader. They need to have followers. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with being a follower. We need to get that out of people's heads, honestly. Because if we have a bunch of people with this mindset that think that being a follower is bad, no one's going to want to collectively work together, which is what a leader does. What a leader does is it gets a bunch of people who commonly believe in a certain thing and gets them to unionize and work towards a common goal. That's it. That's honestly it. But we need those people who are willing to be the follower to be able to actually do the hard work and achieve that goal in the first place. I think what they're trying to say is think for yourself. But to think for yourself, you just need to be intelligent. You just need to be able to have the drive inside of you to want to do it in the first place, the motivation. You don't need to be a leader to do that. You don't. No, not at all. So it's absolutely ridiculous that we're told that in absolutely no circumstance are we allowed to be a follower. It's absolutely ridiculous. And honestly, all it's doing is putting more and more and more and more pressure on today's children. And they already have enough pressure, as shown and illustrated before, that they already believe that they're going to have to turn to a life of crime if they don't even get into a decent school. So best case scenario, right? Nick and Karen had kids and they went to a decent school. They were unhappy, and then they had kids, and then they forced those children into a very strict regimen, right? Best case scenario happens to those kids. They go to the best school available to them. They get a nice house. They have the nicest cars. They have 3 children each, not 2.5. They have 3 now. And they absolutely adore their children. But you know what else that they have? They also have a cocaine addiction, a failing marriage, and a life filled with regrets. Oh, and a relentless feeling of unhappiness. I mean, it's not always there. They're not always unhappy, but it always seems to come back. Why? And that's where I come in. I'm going to tell you why they're unhappy. But before I do that, I do want to give a shout out to this book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. The ideas that I'm about to speak of are ideas that were actually already my own. Not saying they're originally my own, because I'm definitely not the first person to think about why people are unhappy. But I did have this idea because I did grow up religious, and I was always told that happiness comes from God. You know, following God, you'll be happy. But there were still unhappy people in the church, and I was curious. So I would sit down and think about this. So what I'm about to talk about are things that I already did think about. However, this book is going to touch base on those things and even more things, and talks about it in such clarity that I definitely do not do it justice. So if you do want to know more about what I'm about to say, please read this book. It definitely will change the way you see life. So this is what my ideas were on how to live a better life. The reason why you're unhappy is because you have a fucked up definition of happiness. Happiness is not a state of being. It's not nirvana. It's not a state of enlightenment. It's like any other emotion. Anger, sadness, being anxious. Those are all emotions. And happiness is no different. Another reason why you might be unhappy is because you either care too much or too little. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. What I mean by caring way too much is if there's too many different things you care about. Let's say you care about 30 things and you care about these different 30 items very much. Those items could be like family members. Maybe you care very much about your youth baseball team because you're a coach. Many different things that you can care about as a person. You care about your car, you care about your appearance. There's just so many things, right? But keep in mind, we only have so much energy and so much time in the day. We won't be able to achieve every single one if you have too many things that you care about. So let's say there's 30 items that you care about. You're only able to sufficiently attend to 25 of them. That means 5 of them are left unattended and are surely going to be neglected, and you're going to feel like an absolute failure because you weren't able to take care of all the things you wanted to take care of. If you're for example, and this makes sense once I give this example. You take care of dogs. You love dogs, and you have 30 of them. We're sticking with the number 30. I don't know why, but we're going to do it. There's 30 of them, and honestly, man, they are a handful, but they're so cute and they're so lovable, and you love these dogs. But you only have enough time and energy to really only play with, again, 25 of them. And 5 of them are going to be left neglected. So then they're not as lovable as the other 25 are. The 25 are, oh yeah, you're taking care of these kids. You're taking care of these dogs so that they'll one day be adopted. 25 of them, because you give them that love and that care, they grow up to be loving and caring dogs, and they find adoption very easily. But the other 5, they're kind of antisocial, and they're kind of like weird with people, and they kind of suffer because of it. And you feel like an absolute failure because you weren't able to take care of those dogs. Even though you took care of 25, those 5, because you cared about them all equally, since those failed, you yourself see yourself as a complete failure. You totally forgot about everything else that you were able to do. And I myself definitely have fallen under this trap, and I'm 100% certain you as well. But there's also people who just don't care enough. They don't have enough things to care about. And what happens when they do this is they start to feel like they have no purpose. They're just senselessly suffering. They have no reason for being, no reason to live. So why not live? Like, why just stop living? And that's when you get the nihilists. They just don't care enough. They don't have enough things to care about in the world. So why care at all? And let me tell you, they will be unhappy. Because if you're suffering senselessly, unhappiness surely will follow. But a little bit more on that in a little bit. Number 3, you have fucked up expectations on how to achieve happiness in the first place. The reason why Karen and Nick were unhappy was because they had end goals that were not developmental. They were just end goals, like running a marathon and you've passed the finish line. That's like an end goal. It just stops there. Once you achieve it, you achieved it. That's it. They had those type of goals. Their goals were graduate, get a good job, get good pay, get a nice house, get a nice car, get married, have a kid. Once you get those things, you achieve them. That's it. And what happens is once you achieve all those big steps that you've been working your whole life towards, you've been sacrificing endless time, endless energy, and lots of sleep over. You lost a lot of sleep over to achieve these things. Once you achieve it, now what? I'll tell you what. The only thing that will follow after you achieve these things is an existential crisis. An existential crisis. The reason why people have those is because they feel like they have no purpose anymore. And the reason why they feel like they have no purpose anymore is because the thing that gave them purpose is now achieved. Now what? What do you do now? You just rot now? Like, I don't know. I need to find purpose. And that's why they have existential crisis. So what I'm going to tell you is to change your goals into more developmental things. For example, my goal is to be a better person. And that's it. To be a better person. But the thing is that never stops because I can always be better. With every new relationship I make, whether it's family relationships, friendship relationships, or romantic relationships, with each relationship that I build and develop, I'm becoming a better person. With each time with more hours I put into my schoolwork, which allows me to be able to perform better at my future job, that is making me a better person. The more time that I meditate and think about my actions and think about morality makes me a better person. I'm always thinking about being a better person. My goal is not to be a good person. because everyone's definition of good changes, right? It's a little bit different for everyone. And once I feel like I've achieved that definition of good, now what? What do? I've achieved my purpose. I have nothing to live for. But if it's to be a better person, something that's continuously development, you can never stop being a better person. I constantly have a purpose for living. And I recommend you guys take similar goals. Don't be a dad. If your goal is to have a family, you're basically saying, my goal is to be a father. Don't have that goal. Have the goal of, I want to be a better father than I was yesterday. Now that's a good goal. That's a goal that's never going to stop. You're constantly going to get better, constantly developing, and you'll always feel like you have a sense of purpose because of it. So essentially what I'm saying is you need to change your perspective. And by changing your perspective, you have to acknowledge something. You have to acknowledge that bad things happen to everybody. Bad things happen to good people, and good things happen to bad people. But the way that they see this thing, this problem, the way that they look at it is based on their perspective. And based on their perspective is going to allow them to be able to achieve happiness, to be able to feel more happy. Like if you took an average of how people felt throughout their life, they're gonna have more times in which they felt happiness. Because remember, it's just an emotion, just like any other emotion. They have to be able to put themselves in the mindset to suffer, and to suffer because they want to suffer. That might seem a little weird and counterintuitive, but let me explain. This is an example I'm about to give is an example that was in this book, and it's just so good that I just have to use it. So essentially, you spend like 3 months preparing for a marathon. You're like training every day. You're eating right every day. You are focusing so much time and energy and effort into this. And when you finally run that marathon, you're going to be so happy. You're going to be ecstatic. You're going to be through the roof. However, if I put a gun to your head and tell you to run that marathon, you're going to still run it, but you're going to fucking hate it. And it's the exact same act of running a marathon. However, one you genuinely enjoyed and the other one you fucking hated. And it's because one of them you're willing to suffer because you wanted to suffer, because you felt like that suffering was worth it to achieve this goal that you had. However, if I forced you to do it, you suffered senselessly. It wasn't your goal to suffer for. So whenever you have a challenge in front of you, put yourself in the mindset where you're willing to suffer to get through it. Because let's be honest, problems never stop. They never stop. You need to also get that into your head to change your perspective. Because when you think I have problems now, the more money I have, I'll be able to get rid of these problems. That is true. You will. But however, you'll have even bigger problems now. Because the thing is, you might think, like, let's pretend you're one day super poor, and one problem you had was, I don't know if I'm going to eat today. And somehow you busted your ass and you were able to break through, and now you have so much money and you don't have to worry about that no more. However, you do have to worry about this. I made an investment. I don't know if it was a good investment. And if I lose all my money, if this investment falls through, I'm going to have to sell my house. See, that's an even bigger problem. But so what I'm trying to say is problems never go away. They just kind of just get bigger versions of themselves. And the fact that everybody experiences problems, different versions of the same problem, kind of says something. You're not special. You're just a person just like everybody else. There's nothing extraordinary about you. Well, let me take that back. There's some things that are extraordinary, but you overall as a person are not extraordinary. If you excel in one thing in your life, chances are you suck at another thing in your life. And if you average them, you're average, buddy. You're just average. For example, let's think about extraordinary athletes. They do extraordinary feats physically. However, mentally, they're pretty dull. For example, every NFL player, they have to take an IQ test, and the average of all the NFL players is just shy of 90. And let me keep in mind, 100 is the average, and if you're a little bit below 90, that's considered dimwit. Like, fucking stupid. So even though they excel physically, mentally, not so much. So not so much mentally, really good physically, they're average. Let's think about business people. They have an amazing career. They worked so hard. They always make that sell. They have so much money. They're absolute superstars in the professional field. Their professional life is up here, but their personal life is down here. Why? Because they spent so much time building their work life that their personal life suffered. They do not have that much personal connections as they do professional connections. And if you take the average, boop, because their personal lives are shit. And lastly, which is probably the most ironic of them all, is celebrities. We follow the lives of celebrities even though they themselves are clueless about how one should live their life in the first place, which is really ironic when you think about it. So essentially what this means is that if everybody is ordinary, I guess you could say, you need to also, what surely follows is that no one deserves greatness. No one. Sure, there are great people. There definitely are people who achieve greatness. The only reason why they got it was because they were obsessed with self-improvement, and they eventually just got the title of being great. But they were not ever entitled. Let's say they were great in their 50s. They achieved so much that they got the title of greatness in their 50s. In their 20s, they were not entitled. They were not told in their 20s that, hey, when you're 50, you're going to be great. No matter what, you're going to have that title. They're not entitled. They don't have any sense of entitlement to it. No, instead they just busted their ass because they're just obsessed with being the best, and they eventually got it. So what actually does make you happy? I basically told you everything that makes you unhappy and you need to avoid it. What actually does make you happy? Well, happiness actually comes from a sense of solving problems, which makes sense at an evolutionary standpoint. At an evolutionary standpoint, we want to solve problems because it will make our chances of survival exponentially increase. But as I've said before, the problems never really cease to exist. They just become bigger versions of themselves, or they're just still there. There's always better modes of transportation that need to be discovered. There's always better ways to entertain people. There's always going to be problems. There's always going to be money problems. There's always going to be family problems. There's always going to be political problems. There's always going to be problems. And every single one of those problems have solutions. But once we find the solution, another problem is just going to uncover itself. But this is a good thing. You might think, fuck, like, what's the point of living then? No, that's not the point of this video. In fact, it's a good thing that people aren't always happy. It's a good thing that we get happy when we solve problems because it makes us want to continue solving problems, right? And it's a good thing that we don't stay happy because when a new problem arises, we need a motivation, also known as unhappiness in this case. We need a motivation to solve that problem so that we can be happy again. And because of this process of being unhappy and then forcing ourselves to solve a problem to be happy again, and then inevitably becoming unhappy again, and then forcing ourselves to solve that problem to be happy again, and back and forth, this is the reason why civilizations have been created. This is the reason why medicine and technology have seen its improvement, have seen innovation. And I can just go on and on and on about things that are just not possible without people that were unhappy. This amazing lava lamp, for example, would not have been made if someone just wasn't unhappy and just wanted to make money to be happy again. You know, everything. There's nothing that you can look around your entire room. There's art. I have art literally everywhere. Well, on my side of the room, there's art. People do things because they're unhappy, and because of that, we have achieved so much as the human race, and none of that would have been possible without unhappiness. So honestly, embrace your unhappiness. Accept that you're unhappy, but then work towards a goal, an unachievable goal, so that you can be able to move past that unhappiness and become happy again. So really what I'm trying to say is improvement is key. It is, in a sense, the purpose, the ultimate purpose for life, even. And if improvement is the purpose for life, you also need to be accepting of failure, because with improvement, failure is bound to come. You cannot improve without failing. You cannot improve without facing rejection. So those who are scared to fail and those who are scared to be rejected, really what they're saying is they're scared to be happy, because when they avoid these things, they avoid happiness. Which leads to my next and final point. Because to face rejection and to face failure also means to sacrifice. What are you willing to sacrifice for? How much are you willing to sacrifice for that thing? What I'm trying to say is you need to choose meaningful things to sacrifice for. Things that you ultimately give a fuck about. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. What's up, boss? What's up, boss?
How long were you in?
What?
How long were you in?
6 minutes, but I can edit it out. You good? Okay. Let me finish this really quick. I don't want my battery to die. Happiness is not a state of being. It's not nirvana. It's not a state of enlightenment. It's an emotion, a feeling like any other. It's like anger, happiness. I'm sorry. It's like any other emotion. Fuck me.